As we all know, the biological and social stimulation of the family leads to private reflection outside party needs.
You're a thought criminal.
Unorthodox loyalties which can only lead to thought crime. There is truth, and there is untruth. Is the freedom to say 2 + 2 equals 4.
Clasp your hands behind your heads.
Surrounded.
There is truth and there is untruth. I'm taking this phrase from a particularly compelling, yet also utterly discomforting section of the trailer to the movie of George Orwell's novel 1984, with which we have started this presentation. In this probably most famous depiction of a dystopian future, where free thinking is considered a thought crime, there was still room for resistance, exactly because the delineation between right and wrong was still visible, still to be grasped and used as catalyst for an emancipated social movement in the name of some abstract notion of freedom. This is a good example for a certainty of a world that we are departing. The future of politics will be a perfectly staged untruth that we accept as reality. Technopolitics, driven by this insatiable infatuation with power, will be the mechanism through which that mirage of a reality will be created in such a perfectly organized microbial way that will blur the lines of our traditional understanding of power and resistance, subjectivity and objectivity. Big Brother is not only watching you from the outside anymore. Big Brother will be lodged deep inside your cognitive faculties as a microbe within the neurons of your frontal lobe, where our cognitive functions are processed. This is why I call this first of our concepts psycho-codification. It's neither Orwell who can help us, nor the famed post-structuralist French philosopher Michel Foucault, probably the biggest mind of the 20th century. What he called biopower was already intrusive, as Foucault conceptualized power as a gliding phenomenon that is omnipresent, power as a projectile that would discipline and govern our bodies in an immensely flexible and sophisticated manner. But even Foucault's biopolitics was naive, too hinged upon the benign forms of governmentality in the latter half of the 20th century. The technological opportunities of today, and more exponentially in the future, deliver something that the 20th century state could only dream of. Full microorganismal psychocodification of the individual, which allows for a recoding of subjectivity that is near total. Power is not only a gliding projectile with immense velocity anymore. Power is becoming as digestible and penetrative as liquid. Be as water, the famed actor Bruce Lee once said. You must be shapeless, formless, like water. When you pour water in a cup, it becomes the cup. When you pour water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. When you pour water in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Water can drip and it can crash. Become like water, my friend, Bruce Lee said. In our case, power in a liquidized form takes the shape of whatever it enters, and by that, it becomes almost invisible. This is a new form of bio-insecurity for humanity, which threatens to turn us into Nosferatus of the governing elites. undead canvases for that perfectly staged untruth that we will accept as reality because we are coded from head to toe to do so. The future of society and the individual entangled within it is the future of control on an unimaginable scale. Our near-total psychocodification is accompanied by a surveillance regime that can only be characterized as microbial exactly because it's aquatic, shapeless, and formless, to use Bruce Lee's analogy. This microbial surveillance is our second concept. As we are tiptoeing into a future where we'll be living around cities densely controlled by sensors, cameras, and drones tracking our every movement, we will be total objects of power, certainly in the public sphere, much in the same way as Spielberg's Minority Report postulated. In this regard, the future is already here. For instance, a so-called smart digital billboard in London's Piccadilly Circus, equipped with inbuilt cameras, use responsive recognition technology to display targeted advertisements based on gender, the age of passing pedestrians, or the make of their cars. In Hangzhou, a city of over 9 million people in the east of China, an AI-driven smart city system has been in place since 2016. It uses big data and machine learning to monitor every vehicle in the city. As we are quickly becoming avatars in a SimCity-like simulation, our every movement can be tracked by a combination of highly intrusive AI-driven technology. Such video game-style visualization could easily link up to your social media profile, your family pictures stored in your cloud services, and your Alexa at home, perusing your shopping habits, augmenting your voice and favorite music. Imagine a smart city HQ, where technocrats would sit and say, "Oh, this is what he likes. Oh, that's where his girlfriend lives. And interesting, so that's where he hides things." Our lives as avatars in a virtual reality, pre-programmed and mapped out on the neuronal pathways of electrodes that are lodged in our immediate social reality and absorbed as such by our frontal cortex. And doesn't this dialectic between AI technology-driven surveillance systems and the individual demand a new philosophical approach that appreciates the realm of posthumanity? Doesn't it beget a new dimension of social angst as the lines between mensch and robot are increasingly blurred? We are already becoming accustomed to talking to our digital assistants as if they are human. Some of us are starting to treat them as cyber friends, even therapists and confidants. These devices are created in order to be compliant. They lack the human intuition that can only develop through self-reflection. In this sterilized, narcissistic world, where machines substitute our social relationships and turn into devout objects of our desires, deep human connections are increasingly inhibited. Posthumanity is not only a theme with social consequences. The most sinister impact of AI-driven technology will be on the battlefield, in that realm of human activity where questions of life and death are determined by a split-second decision. Posthuman warfare. This is our third concept. Already, civilians are routinely killed by military drones piloted by humans. In the future, we will face a mode of warfare that compounds the problem of killing without accountability. Imagine swarms of quadcopter killer drones, which are only a very small technological advance away. It's not only terrorists that could easily get their hands on such technology, But such AI-driven terrorbots open up immensely challenging questions about ethics in the battlefield. Our current legal system, certainly even the Geneva Convention, seem woefully outdated to deal with an army of ex machina-style Terminators that are programmed to kill. Once these forms of new posthuman warfare are developed and deployed, they become factors in world politics, and not only for us, but also for homicidal movements that are summarized under the label terrorist. How willing are the tech giants and how capable are governments to confine their profits and power in order to institute an ethical code of conduct that would harmonize some of the battle lines that are already opening up between human and machine? For a rather more responsible approach to prevail, we need a global movement with local manifestations that makes the case for a peaceful deployment of AI-driven technology. Where there is power, there is always resistance. Making the case that AI technology is only progressive, even admissible, when it helps us in fighting poverty, famines, environmental degradation, and war, is the future task of all of us. It may well be the cosmic battle of the next generations that will decide the survivability of human civilization as we know it.